All right, welcome back, friend. Now we are moving into the centering circuitry. This is a minor circuit. And centering goes from the 3410 over to the 2551. And the whole point of centering is literally to pull you into your own identity on this material plane. And what we're going to look at is the 3410 to begin with, this channel of exploration, the design of following one's convictions, so that we can see how the 34 operates here and how the 10 operates here in the centering circuit. Now the 34 is going to operate differently in integration, and the 10 is going to operate differently in integration as well. And integration is a channel that keeps humans alive in the now. And the centering circuit brings us into our own identity. So, the 3410 in the channel of exploration, a design of following one's convictions. This is response. This is about being a generator. This is individuality. This is centering. This is empowerment, the now, and hearing. All individual circuitry is acoustic. All of it. And acoustic is hearing, but it is also frequency. And when we get to primary health system, frequency is, at the very foundational levels of who and what we are. So exploration is the empowerment of behavior, or the behavior of empowerment. Why empowerment? We're in the individual energy. So exploration is the empowerment of behavior, or the behavior of empowerment. You will have a fixed behavioral pattern in your life that empowers others to fix their own behavior pattern. The ability to behave as oneself without any interference, and to empower others to live as themselves without interference. Why are we using the words interference? Individuality is really not designed to be conditioned by other people. We're designed as individuals to honor the melancholy, go into the creative muse, and allow for the knowing or the mutation to drop in, so that the knowing can be experienced and expressed in the correct timing. So we're not here to have interference from others. And if you look at this particular channel, both of the traits are in the quarter of mutation. This is a very mutative energy, transforming energy. So the initiation of the 5125 exists inside exploration, just as exploration exists inside initiation. When we get to the one, we get to, seeing the initiation, the 5125 channel or strength. You'll see that there's a lot about daring, there's a lot about warrior activity here, and really this is where the innocence and the war kind of conflicts with each other and moves into the war, into the larger group. Initiation is, wanting to be first. But the whole point, when we look at it at a very esoteric level, is that this is the initiation into self. It goes from, we're not there yet in the tribal activity, but the tribal energy that all moves up into the ego center. The only other aspect in the ego is this channel of initiation. So exploring one's own behavior, one's own power, this exploration, living life to your own convictions, is the initiation into self on this material plane, because that's what the tribe is all about, is material plane. That's what the heart is all about. And, this is also the initiation of the exploration of the self and self-love. So exploration is, at its best, it's here to respond. Life, literally life. Life is going to have you respond. And what is going to be the example of that will be your behavior. So mastery is going to come from response. Whether or not you are a manifester, a projector, an evaluator, life is constantly presenting us with things for us to explore so that we can drop into our own convictions. And that's how we master this material plane, is coming from a place of response. So even though you're a manifester and your strategy is here to inform, you're informing based off of what the evolution, what the transiting program is presenting to you so that you can respond to it and then inform as to what you're moving forward to. What you're moving forward to create, to which doorway you're gonna create for the rest of us. So at the very, very fundamental, structural level, we're all responding to life. So the 34th gate powers our basic mechanism for survival. And one of the ways in which we survive is that we explore deeply. You must be in the mood to explore, like all individual activations, and seek out what you love. From the vantage point, you will always be able to follow your own convictions. This, that's one of the taglines for a generator or a manifesting generator. Love what you do and do what you love. So you are not convincing others to follow your convictions. No. You are empowering them to follow their own. Now, I have been able to witness this on the other side, where the not self aspect of this, if you're not following that person's convictions, if you're not following them, they are very coercive and very manipulating and very underhanded to get you to follow their convictions. This isn't about following anybody else's or having them follow yours. This is about you standing in your own power and your correct behavior and moving forward from there. Being centered is a response to life. The transformation of centering into the self through response. When one follows their natural responses, you become centered in your convictions, no matter how unusual they may be. Out of behavior comes the love of oneself. Wait to be asked. As a generator channel, you can't center into your transformative self without responding to life. So the 34th gate, this gate of power, again, this energy operates in a couple different ways. because through the exploration, you are this empowerment mechanism. You know, when we move over to integration, what's important is that this is about self-empowerment when it's with integration. Okay? So the only pure asexual gate of the sacral. So asexual, these people like to masturbate. These people are not, this isn't a sexual activity. The 59 wants to be sexual. The 29 wants to be sexual. The 34, nope, it wants to do it on its own. So this power is ready for display and use from a place of response. Always from response. The 34 speaks of survival itself. It is here to keep us alive and enhance our survival as individuals. The power to be independent and the energy of conviction. It is the power of the great which determines whether individuation can be maintained. So the power of this gate provides energy for 3 different channels. It's an enormous energy resource. Power, which goes over to the 57. Exploration, which goes up to the 10 that we're speaking of now. And charisma, which goes up to the 20. So if this is connected to integration, which is power or charisma, this power is not available to others. The focus is on survival and self-empowerment. If it is connected to centering, it will empower others to love themselves and to respond to life. Because that is what the 3410 is all about. So when we look at it and we walk through the lines, power is only great when its display or use serves as common good. This is a massive, massive battery that is just waiting to respond, to use all of that energy resource. This is the power of the great. But it really wants to serve the common good. What is the common good? Well, it's to survive, and it is to love oneself. If you can love yourself, and that's what this centering aspect of the exploration is teaching us. If you can love yourself deeply, imagine what that love frequency is doing to everybody. And if you can survive, you can stay true to yourself, and you can center within self, and you can be an awake, aware being who is surviving in the now. You are serving the common good. The right angle crosses the sleeping phoenix. That's where we're going to, you guys, in 2027. There's this, always rising up out of the ashes, responding to the intimacy with life. You are ahead of your time. The juxtaposition of power. Be comfortable with using this power. And the duality, so the need to be individual and yet the need to be inclusive for the common good. So when we walk through this, the bully, the indiscriminate use of power, this is the foundational energy here. The less negative, the resort to power as a manifestation of frustration. The energy to display power as a response to frustration. The comeuppance, that is the inevitable destiny of the bully. The ever-present risk of retaliation to power displays. This is a part of my design. And I have the 34 to the 20. And when there's a response there to speak, it is unconscious in the design. It is my nodal aspect. I have absolutely no clue what that energy resource is going to say. It's just coming out of the energy resource. And when there is frustration, I will tell you that I notice that this communication gets even stronger. It isn't as melancholic, that's for sure. It definitely gets more powerful. And in order to be individual, in order to center, in order to integrate, there has to be some kind of power. The power of the great. This takes power to walk around and navigate the human experience. The second line, the ability when victory is in sight, not to lose perspective. The power that grows when victory is in sight. A tendency to be emotionally carried away by the smell of victory. The power for growth limited by impatience. And depending on the design, depending on the whole holistic look of this, the 34 might be right here in the now, responding, done. But you may have an aspect of the abstract collective that builds into this. You might have emotional intelligence as the actual authority. So even though there's lots of power there may be times where this power needs to wait so that the momentum, can grow and build and be there for victory. And again, the second line, people are projecting, or they are projecting out that they have all this power. So we have the bully, the indiscriminate use of the power, and then we have the second line projecting out this power. And then we have the machismo. This is the display of this power, the great malefic, where machismo, unfortunately, is invariably backed up by power. This is an exaltation only, in that it is natural and not contrived. The display of power that defines any role. A reasoned and calculated display, the communication of disinformation, the calculated display of power in order to define the role. There's so much power in this particular trait. Even if you are a projector and you have this, there is this yummy power. And this power of the self that could be, allowing the behavior, the survival, and the charisma of others to, for them to be able to step into their power. And of course, the projectors, manifestors, and reflectors, this isn't about you working as though you are a generator. Even though this power is here, it's going to be inconsistent. And it's going to be there to help others tap into what is required of them, what they need to look at, how they need to see their own personal power as a benefit to the whole versus a victim. So for the triumph, the freedom in absolute victory to unlimited use of power, a tendency in victory to restrain excessive power in favor of more subtle and covert ways, the inherent confidence to use power subtly. So at the bottom, we have this indiscriminate use of power. That is how the lower trigram, motors on through life. And then we get to the fourth line, and it's externalizing this, and it's saying, we just need to be subtle. We just need to be covert. We just need to be confident on how we're using this power of the great. So the freedom in absolute victory to unlimited use of power. Ego gratification in the unrestrained use of power with impunity, inevitably leading to abuse. A lack of confidence that can lead to abuse of power. So this power isn't about having power over people. However, that's mostly how it shows up in the world. The abuse of power. See this all the time. People abusing their power. And this is about self-empowerment or empowerment. This isn't about disempowerment, but of course we have a duality, so it could be. Totally could be about disempowerment. That abuse. Now the 5 is annihilation, the total elimination of resistance, the power to destroy completely, and once this is accomplished, the ability to transfer the power to normal purposes. The resistance to release power other than when necessary. A difficult in shedding the patterns established to deal with resistance, symbolized by its phases. The feeling that nothing is permanently annihilated. The discomfort with the need to always release power. And these are the people that are projected on. Oh, they have all this power. And what does the heretic do? The heretic is standing on the mountaintop with all of these unbelievably practical solutions. And if those solutions don't work, they will be annihilated. They will be hung in the square. So there is a resistance here. There can be a resistance to showing the power. But there can be also a complete elimination of resistance so that the power can be shown. And then we have common sense. And common sense comes from the display of power, knowing when enough is enough. And how do you know this tagline? Well, this tagline comes from the undefined sacral center, the undefined energy resource. You get to know when enough is enough. That's what common sense is here. So that the display of power, maybe it needs to be turned off. It doesn't need to be, out there fluffing its feathers. So the common sense, when having bitten off more than it can chew, to spit part of it out. The restriction of the release of power when one does not have the strength to maintain it. The enthusiasm overriding better judgment invariably leads to complications. The lack of restrictions that one saps one's strength. The lack of restrictions that can sap one's strengths. Can you maintain this power? Are you displaying your correct behavior? Does this display of power, is it required in the moment for survival? These are the things, the common sense of the energy resource is that, kind of similar to your cell phone. If there's apps that are running in the background, there's a little, mine, I have a Samsung. It says to me, in order to save battery power, these are the apps that you can stop from running in the background. So knowing when enough is enough. Knowing that in order to get to the end of the day, there is going to be a restriction on when you release your power. There's common sense on when and how to use this bully, machismo, keep the momentum, and triumph, and annihilate anything in your way. There's a common sense on how that all operates. Now, when we move to the 10th gate, so I'm going to give you the information here, how the 10th gate works in centering. Then there's going to be more added onto the slide once we get to the integration piece of this. So I'm going to keep all of this and then add on to it in the next, when we move to integration. So the gate of behavior of the self, this is treading. We've gone over, this is a rule gate. This is part of the rule activity. So this is, so in the profile, you're going to recognize this because this came out of the profile energy. So this is not about how we impress others. It is about how we survive. This is the expression of the individual in their life. This is the part of the vessel of love. This is where the vessel actually pours out. So the question here is, how do we live this consciousness out as an expression? This is the possibility to love oneself. It is that possibility to ground, or the framework of loving oneself is to love being in the world, because the 10th gate is about living in the world. It is about being a part of this life process. So the love and commitment for being yourself, when following the inner GPS of your interaction style and your inner authority, you begin to explore living life as a self-aware individual. We all have a genetic code of behavior imprinted in us. The moment we are behaving or not behaving as ourselves, it is the moment that life becomes more difficult. The more you are yourself, the stronger your capacity survival, regardless of circumstances. To be yourself is the great success. Remember, the 10th gate is a roll gate. So there's this built-in behavior in every single line of every single hexagram. And when we get to the next page, and hopefully you've gone over the profile, because you're going to recognize how this operates. So this is not awakening without the correct behavior. There is no awakening without the correct behavior. This is the deepest individual, melancholic, self-absorbed aspect you can find in the body graph. It is very self-absorbed in self. This is the transcendence of love. This is about being a sentient being, a conscious being this thing in the world, being alive in the world. Even though the world has killing grounds, slavery, hostility, it is about just simply loving being in the world just as it is. But of course, the not-self is going to hate being in the world because of the killing grounds, slavery, and hostility. And what the whole point of this, how to transcend, is just to be yourself in the world as it is. So this is about surrendering to the precariousness of life, accepting of everything and everyone, good or bad. So to accept the world is to accept the truth. We do not control it. It is not our world to play with. We are of it. We are simply of it. And that is the magic. So the mundane aspect is to love oneself and to love yourself. The higher level is to love being in the world. And the combination is to love being in the world as yourself and loving that person who is in the world. This is not the measuring kind of love that the not-self does. So many people love me because blah, 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 blah. This is desperation, changing your behavior to get love. The truth is, to love yourself is to love your behavior in the world, and to empower others is to love their behavior in the world. The only way to love yourself is to be you, to let the mechanics operate through you, and to get out of the way of that. This is the perfection of form. Loving yourself is about perfecting the form. So here is the rules. We've seen this. We've seen this when we look at the profile and the costume that your purpose is wearing, because that's really what the profile does. So the underlying code of behavior, which ensures successful interaction despite circumstances. The right angle cross of the vessel of love, the love of the journey, self-love, love of sensuality, love of life. Juxtaposition of behavior. This is watching the opportunities to advance in life. And then the left angle cross of prevention really is you wish to prevent others from making mistakes or wasting time by literally loving themselves and being their correct behavior. So we have modesty, and modesty here is really the investigator. This is the very, very most introspective place in every hexagram. So when you go through and you look at every single first line in every single hexagram, so all 60 first lines, this is a place of modesty. This is a place of investigation. An innate sense to know and accept one's place. A values sense of purpose, no matter what the position. The ability to know one's place and how to act despite circumstances. So the affliction of oversensitivity and or feeling hurt. Oversensitivity to external conditioning of behavior. So, as an example, the modesty piece here is, I worked in corporate Canada. I started out, I was in the financial aspect. I worked at a financial institution. I began my journey there as a part-time cashier or teller. As I completed a business degree at the college here. That was me being modest. I didn't walk in there saying, okay, well, I'm almost done this business degree. I demand this. No, I started at the bottom. I was totally okay with that, knowing one's place and how to act. So within that first year of me being, very, very part-time, after the first year, I was asked to apply for a role as a manager. And I applied and I got it. So understanding that there are also hierarchies in the world. And those hierarchies really allow us to know our own place. Did I change my behavior in any of that? Nope. I couldn't change my frequency. I couldn't change my design. I couldn't change my own behavior. But I knew my place. And when we look at the material aspect of human design, you're going to recognize that from the 54 to the 32, 44 to the 26, 21 to the 45, this is the material way. We really are all designed to start at the bottom and move our way up. That's how modesty operates. And then we have the Hermit. So the successful sidestepping of behavioral requirements through isolation. Mercury exalted, where mental functions enrich aloneness, independent behavior through isolation. The angry exile, isolation to prevent independent behavior, preserves independent behavior in the face of conditioning. So the Hermit does both of this. The Hermit hermits because it doesn't want to be conditioned, and its own actual natural behavior is to isolate. So you'll recognize every second line. So they're a hermit, but what they also are is they are a natural. So they have this natural behavior. And what's most likely happened is that they've been reprimanded for it because other people, look at this, they're projecting this out, they have this beautiful, attachment to their own self-behavior, and then they're reprimanded for it. Then the 3, the martyr, the futile rejection of standards based on just awareness. So the martyr is an enduring example whose behavior is ultimately enshrined. Behavior that is ultimately challenged by others. The martyr complex, the active pursuit of martyrdom for personal aggrandizement. Behavior as a way to attract attention. So here, when you're true to who you are, and you are a third line, third lines are anarchists. And anarchy is not a bad thing. Look at it. It just means without a governing body. So without conditioning. There is, third lines do not want to be conditioned. And in order for them to not be conditioned, this really is rejecting standards. Because what do standards want to do? Standards want to standardize us. They want to conform us. They want to homogenize us. And third lines say, we're not doing it. And then what happens is that we are challenged on our behavior. Always. So as a 1-3 profile, I do not have the 10th quality or gate in my design. However, the modest martyr is how I walk around as a builder. I'm here to build. But I walk around as a modest martyr. I know my place. But let me tell you, I am going to challenge others. I am going to challenge you to fact check the fact checkers. To reject the standards. I am going to challenge you to do that. And I challenge you based off of how my body operates on this planet. I am quite modest. I am very conservative with the 50th gate. So I don't challenge you in a way that is seductive. I'm not a 5th line. I challenge you in a way that's very modest, very foundational, very simplified. And then when we get to the 4th line, this opportunist, well, now they're externalizing. They're externalizing all of this modesty. They're externalizing this ability to, isolate and kind of bring in their hone their own behavior. They are externalizing this martyr. So they're bringing all of this information, this foundational information, and now they're externalizing. So 4th line people externalize their behavior. So the acceptance of norms until a successful transformation can be engendered. And one of the biggest things that Ra has always said here, you're a 4th line being. If you're a 4th line being and you have a job and you want another job, you stay in that job until you find another job. So transformation, that's what this says, right? The acceptance of norms until a successful transformation can be engendered. That's opportunity. So transformation, that is transcendence to a higher code. The maintaining of behavioral patterns until the right moment and opportunity for transformation. So you stay with the status quo until you can move on. So opportunism as a game and or mental exercise. Altering one's behavioral patterns in order to take advantage of opportunities. That's, we don't want you to be changing who you are to take opportunities, because the foundational line says, you know what? This is the innate sense to know and accept one's place. It's not about changing your behavior. And then the 5th line is the heretic. So here's the heretic. I have all these practical solutions, direct and overt challenge to the norms. So the 3rd line is, rejecting these standards. The 5th line is absolutely challenging these norms and standards. So the ability to succeed through the understanding and expression of higher principles, principled behavior, which directly challenges tradition. Burning at the stake, behavior which directly challenges behavior as an eventual punishment. So Ra always talks about this. You know, these guys are the messengers. Fifth line, they're out there touching brand new territory all the time. And this brand new territory, people might chop off their head. We've had enough. Get into your own little box. So if they don't have the practical solutions, even though they're looked upon, oh, these guys have the best behavior, they love themselves, they have the best behavior, they provide a solution, oh, the solution didn't work, cut off their head, let's go to the next heretic. So these are the kind of things that as we walk through, we can see. And fifth lines, they, you know, life is not always going to be this beautiful momentum. It is bumpy. As people want to chop off your head if whatever message you brought doesn't enhance their life right there in the moment, they're not happy. Even though, who knows, down the road, that empowerment piece might become a knowing down the road. But in the moment, they're not happy and they will chop off your head. So the role model, the perfect expression of norms through action rather than words. The constant example that refocuses the complacence on the basic integrity of set behavior. The enduring value of expression of the self through action rather than words. The hypocrite. Do as I say, not as I do. Behavior restrictions to words rather than actions. And really, we want all individuals to be an example. And yet, we also want all individuals to be able to explain the mutation, to explain their knowing. So, as a role model, there must be a beautiful integration of both words and actions. Okay. So if you know anybody with the centering circuit, know that that energy is to help other people center into self and for you to center into yourself. Personal power isn't to be given away. Personal power here is to empower others. When we get to the integration energy, you will notice that it is about self-empowerment. But here it is about empowering oneself. You center into yourself. You center into your identity. You center into your behavior. You love it. Like, love it beyond love it. Like, when I say love it, I mean, like, literally, you have to love who you are. You have to love your mechanics. You have to love every aspect, good, bad, right, wrong, black, white of the design, period. Once you can truly, truly stand in that, all of a sudden, all energy on the planet adjusts because you have become the perfection of your form. And every time somebody becomes awake to their own behavior, aware of their own behavior, able to express that behavior in a healthy way, all of a sudden, the energy on this planet changes. So again, I am there's this modesty and the martyr that absolutely shows up in my builder. Like, if there is a law out there, I am going to break it. But I'm going to break it based off of fundamental, sound, knowing, so that I can bring mutation to the collective. 98% of the laws were written under this cross of planning. How are those going to serve us when we move into 2027? They are not going to serve us at all. Because the fundamental understanding here is that when you take away anything out of the experience that is trying to suppress our intuition, our connection to source, take away all of that. And you will totally see these behaviors show up in the most exalted ways on our planet. We're designed to be modest. We are designed to hermit when we need to. We are designed to be martyrs. We are designed to take opportunities and be that opportunist. We are designed to be heretic, and we are designed to be role models. And I want you to remember that every first line has this modesty. Every second line has this hermit. Every third line has this martyr. Every fourth line has the opportunist. Every fifth line has this heretic. Every sixth line has this role model. And when we're correct in this, when we can let all of that play out, when we can externalize correctly, or we can investigate correctly as these modest beings, if we can pull back behind the curtain correctly and stand in our natural abilities, if we can, challenge what we need to challenge, if we can, reject what needs to be rejected, and if we can literally walk the talk and talk the walk, we change humanity. All right. Have fun playing around with this energy, this centering energy, seeing it show up in the world, seeing how, honestly, people are either living life to their convictions or they are not. And then being able to recognize this energy within you. And then being able to recognize if you don't have any of this in your design, how does it show up in your life so that you can learn from it? Until next one, where we talk about the initiation channel, the 5125.